plan today is to do the 4 peaks in the area, so Corndee, Pen y Fan, Cribyn and Fan y Beag. The car park I normally use might be closed, I'm not entirely sure. I noticed there's a sign outside saying no unauthorised access, but the gates are open, so I'm not too sure. I parked a bit further south. It only adds like 10 minutes to my day of walking. Tuesday morning, post-bank holiday, but it is also half term and the sun is really shining today. It could still be fairly busy on top, I expect. It should be a great day though. I've not been here, I reckon, for about 5 years. Currently walking towards the upper Neuadd Reservoir. From there I go west up the escarpments onto the top, and then carry on towards Corndee, which is the first of probably 4 peaks today. At the very least I'm going to do Cribyn, that's my 3rd one. We'll see how it goes for the last one. I did a 10-mile run yesterday, so I'm kind of still feeling that in my legs. That's where I should be, down there, following that path. But it's all changed in the last 5 years since I was last here. This path is very new to me. Last time I was here, 2016, it was just mud basically. A boggy, marshy walk up the escarpment. And behind me you can see, well, part of the former reservoir. It's very empty. I think it was drained a few years ago for maintenance work or repairs. So this walk is mainly about doing the 4 peaks, which you can't quite see from this angle, but the first thing I've got to do is climb this. This for me is probably the hardest ascent of the entire day. So last time I was here, I drove up on a Friday afternoon after work. Left work about 11:30, and yeah, got here, got changed in the car, did the walk in sort of 5 hours or so, 6 hours, don't know. The first time here, and we did the 3 peaks. That was back in 2015 as part of a camping weekend with a friend over towards Neath and its wild camping site. We drove out there on a Saturday morning, got there about lunchtime I think, pitched up, then headed out this way after lunch to do this 8-mile walk. And by the time we finished it, doing Cribyn but not doing Fan y Beag, it was probably about 9 o'clock. This was like the end of May, so it was getting dark at that time. And we had to get some food on the way back for a very late dinner. Back to the campsite and trying to find our tents in the dark was a bit of a challenge. You can currently see Cribyn up there. I think that one is Fan y Beag. I do want to point out though, I'm not a Welsh speaker. I do try with mountain names and that sort of thing, but yeah, I'm not Welsh. This is almost like being back in Yorkshire on a 3 peaks walk. It's good to see that National Park makes the effort to put this reinforcement in to preserve the pathway. You can now just see Pen y Fan over there. Almost there. Yeah, that's pretty tough. If you want a short diversion, here's a trig point just over there. I've done it before though, so I'm going to carry on the main route towards Corndee. As I was walking towards the reservoir from the car park, these 2 Welsh guys approached me and said, "Excuse me mate, which way is it to Pen y Fan?" And I thought, what? You're both local guys, clearly, you don't know the way. So I showed them this way, and they're somewhere behind me now, climbing that staircase. Down in that valley is absolutely Brecon Beacons. Up here though on the edge there's a nice breeze so far. Yesterday I was walking and running along River Severn in Gloucestershire. The original plan for that day was to go out to the western beacons around Van Brecon and the Carmarthen Fans. I think it's somewhere over there, but the plans changed. I'll come here today, partly because it's a weekday and hopefully it'll be less busy than usual, even though it's half term now. There's the first clear view of Corndee on the left and Penavan on the right. And far below me now you can see the old dam somewhere down there, higher up the reservoir. I do wonder at what point it might be required to be brought back into service again, with the population expanding forever and more houses being built and that sort of thing. I mean, as far as I know, all these surrounding reservoirs, like the Beacons Reservoir just west of here, and the one over there as well, and Talabont and Usk, they're all full and servicing many people. And you may look ahead and think that it looks fairly straightforward, like you go up Corndee and there's a very small climb up again to Penavan, but I can assure you that when you're there it's a bit harder than it looks. And then the way down going east of Penavan is another challenge. So just over this next ridge we meet up with the motorway path from the Story Arms Centre. That is the most direct way towards Penavan. Then we go on a straight run up to Corndee and then Penavan. And when I get up there, the highest point in the south of the UK, I'll have a short break and a cup of tea. On the way down from Cribyn now. That's 3 of them down, 1 to go. I'm probably doing what I think is the hardest descent of the whole route, to be honest. It starts off nice and gentle, but you turn the corner and suddenly the gradient increases and it becomes quite steep. It's mostly a sort of grassy sandstone path. It's still quite hard on the knees. On the right you've got Parry-Jones, highest point in the south of the UK. I had a short cup of tea up there, but it's pretty busy, as you might have seen. Left of that is Cribyn. Now going down this path to the pass between Cribyn and Langdon. The next one is straight over there. Doesn't look that high, but the path, if you look closely, zigzags left and right. That means it's pretty steep. Coming down off Parry-Jones earlier, I passed those two guys I mentioned earlier. I'm not sure if they recognised me at all. They were quite short of breath, to be honest. I've no idea which way they went either, because I'm sure they're behind me going up the escarpment. They must have gone around the summit and then back up from the east. I don't know. I was thinking earlier on about how I don't have much love for the mountains here, to be honest. I've done this route twice before, as I was saying. I've been at Parry-Jones and Cribyn otherwise a few times as well. It just gets so busy, it's not really something I want to do too often. I'm glad to be here now, don't get me wrong. But somehow, being this side of the popular bit, I actually enjoy it a bit more. It's a bit quieter, there's more space for people. There's also fewer people as well. It just feels more open here. It feels more like the Black Mountains over in the east. And even between now and the end, I know it's going to be more like this. I'll see fewer faces going past me, coming towards me. So now you can see this morning's route. The reservoir is just down there somewhere. I walked up past those trees, onto the escarpment, all the way along there, over Cribyn and then up Parry-Jones. In terms of timings, it took me about 2 hours to get to Parry-Jones without stopping on Cribyn, and a bit longer to get over Cribyn after a tea break. You can see the gradient increasing as you go downhill now. Or I could do a shortcut back to the car along that way, but I might still go back that way yet, we'll see. The infamous diving board and summit of Parry-Jones. Just had my lunch and I decided to follow this path, contouring back on myself down towards the pass between Cribyn and Langdon, and from there I'll take the very obvious byway going straight down the valley and almost back towards the car park where I am. But last time I was here I followed the Beacons way a bit further and then went very off piste on a more direct route down the hillside. But that was quite challenging under my feet, a bit boggy in places. And today I'm feeling my left knee's a bit sore. And this is my third day out in a row, like after walking and running the last 2 days. I kind of want to take it a bit easier, a bit safer. Tomorrow I've got to go back to work and dig out a load of rotten wood from a place and shovel out a lot of gravel as well. That'll be a good hard morning's work. And they do say that you're more likely to injure yourself going downhill at the end of the day when you're kind of more relaxed in your mind than you are going uphill and you're concentrating more. Looking down at the reservoir once more, this portion was once mostly filled with water. If you're interested in some translations from a non-Welsh speaker, then Corndy is the Black Chimney, Pen y Fan is top of the place. Yes, really, highest point in the southern UK, ambiguous name like that. And you got Cribyn, that's derived from the word for ridge, which kind of makes sense looking at the shape of it. And finally is Fan Beag. I'm not too sure what that means. It's place of the something. Maybe Google it and comment below. But it's now about 10 to 1. I'm heading back towards the car. I've probably been walking for I've been out for 4.5 hours since I got here. I've now got a pretty long drive back home again. It took me 1 hour 45 minutes from Weston this morning. That's partly because they've reduced the road speed on the motorways around Cardiff and Merthyr Tydfil. They're now 50 zones. And that's all to do with reducing the health effects, well, reducing the pollution from vehicles basically. Driving at slower speeds ideally produces less airborne pollution and makes these residential areas safer to live in, I suppose. It's quite interesting though that Wales are doing this, or at least South Wales. I've not seen it so far in England. And what I was saying earlier about the eastern part of the route being less busy, it's definitely busier these days than it was a few years ago. It's not Pen y Fan crazy, but it's more so than it used to be. And there are plenty of car parks around, or surrounding this valley and the hills and the ridges. Different routes to choose from. I've not filmed it myself, but there is a walk you can do further along from Fan Beag that takes in Wynreath, which is, well, beneath that you'll find the memorial and the crash site from a Wellington bomber with some of the wreckage remaining. And that's worth exploring. But if you've not been here before, and if you're coming to the Brecon Beacons, you kind of want to take in the two highest peaks in the area and some kind of circuit like this. So it's definitely worth doing this route once if you get the chance and you're fit enough for it. But as for me, I reckon I'm good now for a few more years. But saying all that though, if you cross over I think it's the A470, it's over by the Story Arms Centre. You cross over that side, you've got several mountains and hills there I've never been to. The pathways are supposed to be less obvious and less clear. It means going off piste quite a bit. You've got Van Vouwer and Van Vlier and all those kind of things. But I will try and do it at some point, maybe this summer, we'll see how it goes. And it's also worth mentioning that I'm making these attempts at Welsh pronunciation with no one else in earshot. And if you are planning to attempt to walk around this area, especially these central beacons on a weekend or a bank holiday, and it goes without saying, get here early, otherwise you'll struggle to find a parking space.